Hello and welcome to another audio analysis. In today's video we're taking a look at the track Undertones by the English metalcore band SHVPES. This song was the lead single from their 2018 album Greater Than, which unfortunately would be their last. They really tried to do something a little bit different in the metalcore scene around that time by really bringing in influences of nu metal, almost having this urban-esque sound to some of the music they were producing, and whilst it did have okay results, it wasn't seen as quite stellar, and it felt like some of their albums they were releasing just had that special ingredient missing to really take it to the next level. And the band really tried to add some emotional touches to some of their music, really drawing inspiration from a lot of their personal stories that they had to really use that to try and add fuel to the music they were writing. The band would go on to split up not long after the release of the album. Unfortunately, frontman Griffin Dickinson wouldn't actually be able to live up to the same strength and standard of his father, Bruce Dickinson, who is the frontman of Iron Maiden. Some tracks though really did feature some key messages and stories that the band really got across in a very strong way. So will this track prove to be under par or over the top? Let's take a look at exactly how it sounds.
I take my way through the dirt and the undertones, waiting for my cue. What for you don't go.
So one thing I want to touch on with this actual track is it's actually a song all about revenge, but rather than kind of lashing out straight away when you want to get back at somebody, when you want that vengeance, it's all about biding your time for the perfect moment. This idea of I dig my way through the dirt and the undertones, waiting for my cue, waiting for that perfect moment to strike, almost like a snake in the grass that's just really eyeing up its prey. And it's that idea of that go is just that idea of pouncing on something and just kind of really having that perfect moment to finally strike. This idea of being a slave every goddamn minute till you're done, till this point where the tables are eventually flipped. And I love with some of these lyrics, I love at the start of the chorus here, we really just adds these little creative flicks at the end of the certain lines, certainly on Smoke and It's Like Murder, She Wrote. So this idea of flipping the tables, kind of adding this murder scene-esque style, this idea of just really kind of adding these layers to this idea of kind of you think you're being played, but then you flip the tables on somebody. So it's this idea that someone is kind of controlling you and you're just waiting again for that moment. And I love how the lyrics really show that. I'm addicted to vengeance, almost like this rage is slowly building to really show that idea of this gradual build rather than just this instant bite back. And I like how the lyrics do that. Till I'm done with you, I'll wait to burn this party down. So when somebody thinks they've won and they're having a great time and they've walked over somebody, you're waiting for that moment. So it's just every lyric reflects that. And I love how the playfulness on the actual chorus and the way they bounce around with these different sort of deliveries on different lyrics. And it almost has that sharp aggressive tone to it, but it's kind of got a softer tone as well. So it is almost that facade of really trying to come across as being quite innocent, but it actually has those dark undertones built into the actual vocals, which I think is really smart.
Your pockets might be swelling, but my deeds dig deeper. Just when you think you're in heaven, I'll be coming with the reaper. Watch me turn. You think you're burning the air, nothing I can do. Stop running.
again, we've got more lyrics at time with this really interesting idea of fire being brought in multiple times throughout the track. You think you're burning me out. This idea that the kind of vengeance is often shown through things such as flame. It's something that burns eternally, something that you really want to kind of extinguish by kind of getting your revenge on somebody. So I like how they're playing around with fire in the use of the lyrics. And I also like how they've got this pounding drum, almost like biding time, like a ticking clock that really is just these seconds ticking by. Again, just some really smart, simple things they actually do in this track. And although some of the elements didn't feel like they quite fit, I mean, you've got this more rap-based style that they were trying to incorporate into this track and some of the other tracks on the album. It didn't quite have that same power and pull, but I like the way that the lyrics kind of helped to elevate some of the parts that were maybe slightly missing on the rap side that was kind of a little bit lackluster at times.
Crawling out through the smoke, it's like murder she wrote. Now I'm here for you. I'm addicted to vengeance, pulling my sins away till I'm done with you. I will jump on this party down. I dig my way through the dirt and the undertones, holding out for you. Well, for all you know, go.
And I quite like these actual scratchy, glitchy guitars that we do get sort of being brought in a couple of times throughout the song. Almost like that moment where things have just snapped almost and you've really found that point, that boiling point to really turn up the tables and just really flip things on their head. And I like the lyric, I dig my way through the dirt and the undertones, because it's this idea of kind of, someone thinks you're dead and buried. They think they've walked right over the top of you and you're digging your way through, you're crawling your way back almost, kind of under the surface. So that's almost that idea of being undetected, almost like a mole underground, just really making its way, just waiting again, all around this idea of that perfect moment to strike, that perfect moment to find that sweet revenge.
I'll sit in silence while you take your grave. Your days are numbered, they belong to me. I'll sit in silence while you dig your grave. Your days are numbered, they belong to me. Kick it, crawling out through the smoke. It's like murder she wrote. Now I'm here for you. Can't wait to put this party down. I'm addicted to vengeance, pulling my sins away till I'm done with you. I will jump on this party down.
And I really love some of the guitar work that we did have featured within the actual track. It certainly gave it a lot of strength, a lot of power and a lot of energy being brought in as well. And although there were some elements that didn't quite live up to the hype, or certainly to the actual song itself, as I say, the rap wasn't quite on point. It was something that was noted across the course of the album. They tried to jam too many things into the album rather than focusing and narrowing their scope to actually really just kind of add that cohesiveness to the album. But some things that I really did love that they done this was making great use of fire. This idea of vengeance burning, revenge burning, and really showing that through a lot of lyrics. That idea of crawling out from the smoke. Someone thinks they've burned you down to nothing, but you just keep crawling out because you are not going down without a fight, without getting your chance to fight back. So a lot of the lyrics were really smartly crafted in this track, and it's easy to see why it was released as the lead single. And it did incorporate some really interesting musical elements, but I just love the lyrics and the way they're crafted. This idea of revenge not being this sort of instant thing. It's a dish best served cold, which was kind of the inspiration behind the track itself, and that really showed through in clever delivery on the writing of the lyrics to really emphasize that through a different range of meanings, and just such as the idea of crawling through the dirt, this being undetected, like you're just playing someone along until you get that moment to strike, which I think was a really smart way of conveying it that most other songs don't really focus on. They kind of just really have this idea of just instantly bouncing back and really just picking your moment straight away to strike. So that will be everything for today's video. If you did quite enjoy that track and you've not heard of this band before, they did have 2 albums in the form of Greater Than and also Pain, Joy, Ecstasy, Despair. So check them out if you want to hear more from the band. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing anything else from them. They did split up around 2020. I think the only song they actually released in that year was Lion's Den. But if you want to hear more, those are a few songs and albums that you can check out. And as always, feel free to let me know your thoughts about this track, whether it be lyrically, musically, anything like that in the comment section below. And if you want to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next audio analysis.